This is a foreigner living in the Philippines. Actually, it's an interview with another foreigner living in the Philippines. This is my friend Philip. He is the mountain man, the Submariner, the nuclear Submariner, and now he's a farmer out here in the Philippines. And as we are both I'm British, but officially I'm an American citizen, and everybody here who is American, Philip is American, is concerned about the way that things are going, and we all have strong opinions, even if they're based in fear. But Philip has what I call a global awareness, which will prove to be, even if controversial, will prove to be enlightening. So Philip, we're all concerned about being safe. What's your take on it right now?
Well, I'm more or less kind of waiting and trying to connect the dots by listening to our new president here, and I know he's made headlines around the world, and I get a lot of information even from the U.S. and the BBC in England and that, because everybody's concerned with the quick turnaround that he's accomplished in less than 3 months being the president of the Philippines. And I think they're concerned for different reasons, and I think all the expats here are concerned because of who we are and why we're here.
Personal safety.
And yeah, definitely our personal safety. And then you add into that his war on drugs that has probably killed close to 4,000 up to this date in a little over 3 months, has us definitely concerned that a simple name on a list can lead to some pretty horrendous things, and a lot of this is locals making out lists of who their drug people are in the different barangays, and they're locally going after them. And,
so our fear then would be that no matter how good the intention is at the beginning, it can all turn into personal agendas, like a witch hunt.
Oh, I think it already has.
Yeah.
And I think it's not only the drug people going after to eliminate competition, more or less that kind of drug war, which we're not talking about. We're talking about the drug war to eliminate drugs here in the Philippines, and they're talking about the drug war in order to gain control of the drugs here in the Philippines. That war is going on at the same time.
But that would have to be aligned with accusations that the police were not doing their job honestly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think there's proof on both sides here. You know, most people outside of the Philippines, and especially in the United States, do not realize that the police force here is not local. It's not paid locally. It is a government police force. It is regulated and controlled through Manila and the government and the president, which means essentially it is an offshoot and actually a military force here in the Philippines. And that worries people because when the president says something, it's not only the local military which handles certain problems, but the PNP, which is a police force here, is a national entity. And that kind of instills fear because he has opened up the possibility that he will protect them against incrimination and against charges, when in fact in most countries in the world, you know, that wouldn't make much of a difference. But here, where the police force is a national entity, he can do that. He can give clemency to almost anybody that he wants to give clemency.
So in other words, they don't have the concept of internal affairs, where the police do have what are supposedly an independent
judicial system here, which is, what should I say, so archaic that it's not uncommon for years to go by before
Yes.
you even get your day in court.
Yes.
And
And a lot of that, most would say that depends on how much money you have.
oh, always.
Unlike America.
Always. If you have the money up front, we have a relative right now that was picked up before Duarte, thanks heavens, was picked up on drugs. He was at a party where drugs were involved,
Right.
even though at the time he wasn't using, but because he was there, he wound up in jail.
He was guilty by association.
Guilty by association. He really has never had his day in court. And the
Is he
65,000 pesos to get him out, nobody in his family can afford, so he's still there and will remain there for indefinitely. And that's another problem I think that a lot of people question is with his drug war here is it's really hurting one class of people more than another, and that's the lower class here. A lot of them who sell the drugs to need the money, and that's no excuse. I don't think it's a valid excuse, but I'm not going hungry either, and my family's not going hungry. So it's easy for me to say that. But they always get hit first, and
Well, that's true. That is true in any country in the world, isn't it? I mean, one of the biggest accusations leveled in America, and I'm saying this not because I'm trying to put all of the blame on America and say every time you say, well, this is happening in the Philippines, I say, oh, well, this is happening in America as well. That's not the emphasis I'm trying to place. That's where my experience, the most recent experience I have, is in America, where I was since 1992. And what I saw was that the Joe on the street that happened to be caught with a few ounces too many of whatever drug it was he had for his own use could be put inside. And the jails are pretty full on people that were caught and incriminated by their actions and ended up in jail and couldn't get out.
but at least in America, they've got their day in court quickly. I mean, some will probably think not quickly enough and that, but they get their day in court quickly. Here, there are some cases on the books for over 10 years already that still have not really had their day in court. Like I said, somebody might talk about justice here, but to me, justice delayed is justice denied. And that's a big problem here. And now with thousands upon thousands turning themselves in, being users in that, the rehabilitation is not here. The court system cannot handle the amount of prisoners. I mean, they literally, there is no such thing as a bed for prisoners. They line up in rows, head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, and everything else, and then the next one toe to, on the floor by the hundreds. And that's the only space that they have. It has caused a severe problem, and I think it's only going to get worse as he continues his quest to eradicate drugs from the Philippines. And I think it's and until you get the boys on the top of the pyramid, you're not going to solve the problem. No. And he really hasn't got those, and he hasn't turned them in, and they haven't. So it'll be interesting to see, in that sense, his popularity here, because he's going after this problem, which is huge, is enormous. I think the last I saw was like 86% of the population.
I think it's been actually higher than that as well. It was the highest with any president that they've ever had.
Yeah.
And they've had their national heroes that have been presidents, like Cory Aquino was revered, as was her father.
Yep. And it's kind of puzzling for us expats who have a different background, and with the human rights issues here now, that there is so much popularity. I always refer to it as part of the Philippine culture, which unless you come and live here for a number of years, you're not going to grasp.
No.
And it's this approval, underlying approval of the use of force without question in order to handle a problem. It's
Yes.
part of the culture here, and in most cases it remains unseen, unheard, you know,
Well, it's
and not documented that much, but it still is kind of a part of the culture.
but when it's been there for so long, and it's almost genetic, isn't it? It's almost in a muscle memory.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been, and it will take years and years to get out of that. What we're trying to find out really is what difference does it make to the average person in the rice fields? My brother-in-law works in the rice field, so he's there, he's ankle, sometimes knee-deep in water behind his carabao. What difference does politics actually make to him? In China, I wonder what difference it makes to the person about what kind of politics the government has when they have almost nothing.
Yeah.
How is their life impacted? Usually very little.
I will agree. Even under the Marcos regime here, probably 70–80% of the people living here were not affected.
No.
They were more concerned with providing food daily
Yes.
in order just to live today.
Just to survive till the end of the day.
Yeah. And the culture and the area that we live in right here is part of that culture.
Yes.
They live day to day.
I call that the one-egg economy.
Their political agenda has nothing to do with Manila or Duarte or anything like that. It has to do, what do I got to do today in order to feed my family today?
Yes.
I managed it yesterday. Hopefully I'll manage it tomorrow,
Right.
but I'm not worried about it until tomorrow.
They know better than to plan too far ahead,
Yeah.
because things can change so easily. We could almost benefit from having some of that viewpoint in the West, couldn't we? Because I have people who comment on our videos, for as controversial as they may be, saying, why do people choose to live in that kind of poverty instead of having a nice house that's paid off and a nice car and a nice kitchen and living room? Why would people choose to live like that when they could have all that we have? Whereas I know, as I think you do, that you can lose all of that in a second.
But they have nothing to choose. They've never had that choice.
No, well, they've never taken it, have they?
And even though almost every family has somebody overseas, you know,
In this case,
in order to send money home here, it still is the fact that they live for hundreds of years. And to them, it's just another day. And their concern about politics is basically non-existent. They may have voted in this last election. How they chose the person they voted for, I have no idea, because they know absolutely nothing about any of the candidates. But they just, and that's why most of the people in the Senate and the House and their presidents are, quote, famous people here.
right. We only have a few minutes, so we're really going to have to end off. But was there something you finally wanted to say, Philip, just to help?
Well,
We're going to have to do this again.
Yeah. I
That's
think
all.
anybody interested, the best thing now, and especially with the politics that's happening now in the Philippines, is kind of hold your breath. I mean, do a little bit of research in that.
Keep your head down.
And maybe pray, because I think this guy and the Philippines needs that. But we'll see eventually what happens, and hopefully it will remain the country that Terrence and I have come to love, and the people that we've come to love here. I just don't want any of that to change.
No, we've worked very hard
yeah.
for what we've got.
And,
not that we've got a lot.
And I think you could look at 60 to 70% of the people here feel the same about
Yes.
America and about the relationships that they've had with Americans. And like I said, I just hope that that will continue.
Right. But right now, this is my view of what's happening in the area that we live. I have noticed no change at all in the goodwill that I always experience whenever I go into the nearest town, which is Taliban. And I feel as perfectly safe as I've always felt. I'm obviously as sensible as anybody else. I don't go out at night in areas that are full of bars. I don't do the bar scene. I don't do any of that. I live a quiet life, and I live in an area where I'm known and hopefully liked and respected, because that's how I feel about the people that I live with. Would you agree?
I agree 100%. Yeah.
See, so we're actually saying that right now we're apprehensive about how the future is going to unfold, but time will tell. Right now, we're feeling okay.
Correct.
Thanks for watching. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. I think that Philip and I are going to have to talk again, because he always comes up with inspiring conversations, and we'll say goodbye. Thank you, Philip.
Yep. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.